Welcome back to the channel, and today we're asking ourselves the most useless question. Can you beat Fallout 4 with only the Thirstzapper? Now the Thirstzapper, for those that don't know, is a useless little squirt gun that you get at the start of the nuka-world DLC. But it can be upgraded to shoot something a little more lethal than pneumonia juice. Now to do that, you'd have to complete the entire DLC. But in that case, you might as well have called this video, Can You Beat nuka-world with only gunbashing? So we're just gonna make the thing appear, because we wanna know whether you can beat Fallout 4 with only the Thirstzapper. To begin, we named our hero Sugary. It's supposed to be a combination of sugar and Zachary, but it sorta turned out as Suckary. It works too, I suppose. Anyway, a local high-pressure front was created, my wife got murdered, and my son taken away from that whore by Child Protective Services. For our first shots, I needed a smidge more crystal, so after tearing everything that wasn't bolted down, I ended up with 0 crystal extra. To not have all that scrapping go to waste, I made the world's densest field of harmless asparagus and left spawn at level 10. I first went to the Drumlin Diner to trade with Carla and Trudy.
A great success!
Of course, I wouldn't lift a finger as they fought Wolfgang. With crystal from Carla Get, I now needed to find nuclear material in high quantities. Luckily, I knew just the place. But then I saw the cost. Mentats, go! That's better. I still got broke though. So I made a start on becoming the biggest water baron in the wasteland to pay for the egregious cost of my weaponized soda pop. Anyway, after getting a nice amount of XP for crafting about 24 shots, I went to the Museum of Freedom to test this puppy out. And to get the perception bobblehead there. You decide which one took priority. Disappointingly, the stuff was pretty weak and couldn't even one-shot every standard raider, even with 2 perks into explosives for 50% more damage. I had also put points into Bloody Mess, but this did literally nothing, so that was a waste. Honestly, the thing was just crap, at least until the Cherry and Quantum upgrades. So, headshots were the name of the game for now. After the first fight, I immediately put a point into rapid reload, since this thing's reload was giving me major muscle loader PTSD. Which, yes, was the whole reason why this rotund soda addict was so good at making agile flips through the air. Being better at VATS was also a nice bonus. To add insult to injury was that the splooge coming out of my gun left behind a puddle of radioactive goop, which was more annoying to me than detrimental to my enemies. Speaking of enemies, this was some dense soda to be blowing off people's heads and limbs, like goddamn! Anyway, after making it to the bobblehead, and Preston I guess, I entered the power armor and found something inherently funny about Chad Power Armor holding a pissy little squirt gun. On the ground, I immediately ran towards the deathclaw's hidey hole, cause I'd be damned if I casually sneezed away all that precious Nuka-Cola ammo on raiders that'd easily be killed by that deathclaw. Out of curiosity, I gave him one good blast.
Embarrassing. Embarrassing.
And might as well have taken a piss on them. So I just had Preston take care of it. Because he's a very special boy, it took him the better part of 10 to 15 minutes to get the job done.
What's up, Doc?
Because water production was just starting up, I decided to do a drug heist for cash in Diamond City. But the game bugged out, so Paul got fucking destroyed like 5 times over and then died.
Guess we're done here. Sorry I had to see that. Things are usually a lot quieter around here.
You know, when the AI does it, it's totally fine, but when I get caught salivatingly stealing all Nuka-Cola in town like an addict, all of a sudden it's a crime punishable by death. Well,
It was like a sign from God.
cause while I did lose out on a lot of early game caps, in the long run, him selling a bunch of cola together with that pompous bot outside was worth far more than those caps. The questline was also very confused.
Oh, he's missing. Paul. I mean, it's not like him, and I'm worried something's happened to him.
Paul's dead.
Oh my god. How do you... Do you know what happened?
I killed him!
I guess
Okay. I left Diamond City and headed to Vault 114 to rescue Nick. With almost 50 shots to my name, I would surely have enough to clear out the entire vault. And got very concerned when I needed 2 or more shots to kill the triggerman there. It was down there that I realized that it didn't really matter all that much whether I went for body shots or headshots, and that fats were the way to go. Besides the zapper needing very little AP per shot, the slow projectile speed also wouldn't cause me to miss when using that. Of course, being a little off with the cherry and quantum shots wouldn't matter all that much, but for this stuff it was certainly necessary. To add insult to injury, my usual strat of using Psycho didn't seem to add any additional damage either, just like the Bloody Mess perk. Anyway, having cowered in the little rooms in the subway and peeking in and out to rake in the kills, I found out the hard way that gunbashing don't even work for this thing. Second time around, I didn't get clobbered in the head by a baseball bat and had to spend another 2 hours getting ammo. Next I returned, ran past most enemies along the way, killed a bastard that took 5 shots before he flopped over, and freed Nick. After that, we started making our way towards the vault's exit. Eventually, we arrived at Skinny and the boys, and gal. But with only 11 shots left, I didn't rate my odds too highly. So I just input Mama Murphy's cheat code and got the hell out of there. Back in Diamond City, I stole the key to Kellogg's house, entered the place, and found a few bottles of ammunition. Before going to Fort Hagen, I reckoned that I needed the Nuka Cherry Shot to have a not shit time during the Kellogg fight. So besides getting another cheat code...
That boy got that virus.
and her dying shortly after due to AIDS, I went around doing a few low-effort quests to get the last few levels needed for Gun Nut 3, which was in turn needed for the Nuka Cherry Shot. These included the Olivia Satellite Array for the Abernathy's, the National Guard Training Yard for Deb at Bunker Hill, who incidentally sold me a chest rig with 50% explosion resistance, where I also found a piece of the Lost Patrol. And going down the railroad questline to get my hands on that ballistic weave upgrade. I've foreseen a world where I might just survive a low-yield nuclear detonation thanks to that armor in the near future. Or at the very least, allow me to soak up damage to kinda corral enemies together to get the biggest bang per squirt. This, of course, included the quest involving me going to Dunkin' Donuts to pick up Dr. Carrington's order. Luckily, a lot of the synths down there stood close together, severely limiting the amount of shots I needed to take. After grabbing Carrington's thingy, I just had to make it out of there. But I'd run out of ammo. So I pressed the panic button in the form of Jet and fucking legged it. Following a few quests not even worth mentioning, I unlocked the ballistic weave.
Victory!
After that, I spent 6 real hours of selling an ungodly amount of water, project purity step aside, for stuff to craft 100 Nuka cherry shots, which were much more acceptable than the normal stuff. Though it also required silver.
Loads of money.
Now armed with 2 Thirstzapers dispensing dangerous amounts of sugar, it was high time to test the cherry shot out on Kellogg at Fort Hagen. And it was at this point that the run turned from very challenging to fun. The most basic bare-bones synths would now actually friggin' die whenever I shot them. Though tougher synths still required a little something extra. By the way, you ever seen a headless synth before?
You're supposed to be dead!
'Cause now you have. Now, since the cherry shot had a much larger explosion radius, and of course higher damage output, the odds of me hurting myself had exponentially increased. Though luckily, because of that chest rig I was wearing, I was protected from most of the damage of these point-blank shots, of which there would be many of. Anyway, I sprinted past the turrets that were, as usual, way too powerful. After which, I arrived at Kellogg.
Say hello to my little friend!
Having turned Kellogg's head into mashed potatoes, I grabbed a nugget of his brain. After which, the Brotherhood of Steel entered the area. So I headed to Dan's, had him deal with the entirety of ArcJet on his own, burned him to a crisp, and jacked the last kill to pretend like I totally did something. This worked, and I was invited to join. After which, we flew to the airship. Why join the Brotherhood, you might ask? Mostly because I hadn't sided with them for a while, and because I'd done them real dirty last time. To start off, Elder Maxon sent me to Fort Strong, where I realized right now during editing that I'd made a small oopsie. You know, 'cause minigun. At Fort Strong, I put a second point in the quick reload to nullify the cost of reloading in VATS, making this thing even more stupidly good in VATS. Anyway, in case you were wondering at some points throughout the run as to why were the enemies clustered here, why didn't you just shoot there, or why were you running around like you're mentally handicapped there, it's probably because I am. And because I'd probably be trying to corral those enemies. Well, with Fort Strong secured, I went back to Nick, walked through Kellogg's brain, and was directed to the glowing sea to find Dr. Virgil, who could make me a teleporter. I basically just ran past everything in the glowing sea, but of course I couldn't just leave the children of Adam live. I mean, come on, just look at them.
It sickens me.
You know, for all their talk about Atom protecting them from radiation, they weren't being protected very much from my radioactive soda pump. In front of the good doctor's cave, I first shot off the tail of the deathclaw there, which I always thought would render it immobile, but I guess not. After which, I turned it into a paraplegic.
I've got no leg.
This handsome devil would give me teleporter plans, but for it, I needed to remove the head from a courser's shoulders. Before being given that privilege, however, I first had a few close encounters with the gunners there, which mostly used energy weapons that usually hit a lot harder than, say, the pipe rifles super mutants use. So they managed to get me very low several times while trying to corral them. Anyway, I eventually did reach the courser.
I need what's in your head.
That you cannot have.
And this thing was way tougher than Kellogg, requiring 6 shots instead of 3. But that's got the job done, whilst incurring a small amount of collateral. With the chip get, I made sure to leave the synth locked up to be a dick. Decoded the chip at the railroad.
We're in.
And got to building the teleporter, where Ingram was very eager to go herself. Sadly, I was forced to go in anyway. Inside the Institute, I scanned their mainframe and met with my geriatric old son.
I am your son.
Bullshit.
Next, son Curry creamed his pants. And because of his pleasurable chems, he managed to convince Dr. Lee to rejoin the Brotherhood. Back from the Institute, I was assigned to work on Liberty Prime, build thingies to attach his limbs to his torso, after which I was again ordered to the Glowing Sea to fetch Liberty Prime's nukes.
I'm fast as fuck, boy.
Inside, resistance was lighter than you'd expect from the Glowing Sea. There were basically just 2 groups of ghouls that needed shooting. The rest was pretty much optional. Oh, and 1 child of Adam that needed to vacate the premises. With the nuke secured, I quickly took care of the glowing one camping the exit elevator, and after all of that, Elder Maxon accused me of treason.
I'm ordering you to hunt down Dance and execute him.
I might be a cola addict, but I ain't a liar. So after Halen practically ratted Dance out and buying a decent helmet by using the Water Truck 9000, I headed over to Dance, where after his dumb bots practically killed each other, I cleared my name as just being a cola addict. Next, the Brotherhood decided that the railroad got to go. Well, no skin off my nose, I never really liked them anyway. So I returned to the Old North Church one last time with a neat little checklist as to whom I should definitely kill, on top of those that I'd kill for my own morbid pleasure. After taking care of the leadership, of which only Glory was somewhat able to put up a fight, I reached level 34 and explosives 4. Before going into the late game, I wanted that sweet, succulent quantum upgrade. So I got back on that grind to get the remaining 7 levels needed for Science 4 for the upgrade. In this case, by making giant stacks of rubber, translating raw economic output from the mega water farm into an assload of rubber to turn into XP. After again spending far more time on this than I wanted, I unlocked the quantum shot and could finally experience the joy of making 60 shots of it using literal gold. Before starting a war with the Institute by going to mass fusion, I still wanted to finish the last patrol quest. After all, I had already found the main squad and a singular knight, but I hadn't cleared out the super mutants at the satellite array yet. Firstly, cause super mutants and would have eaten too much precious ammo whilst dishing out a lot of damage to me with like rockets and stuff. And secondly, because the quantum shot follows a much straighter trajectory. I mean, you can practically spit the distance of the normal shot. The cherry variant is unreliable but capable of shooting at range, but the quantum shot is a much more reliable choice. If not for its straighter trajectory, then for having a larger blast radius. At this point, I had become suckery. Monster Hunter! Gone were the days where I ran away from singular ferals. At least these big cheeses were worth shooting. But boy, was the road long to get to this point. Anyway, I reported the rejoining of Paladin Brandis and went aboard a vertibird with Proctor Ingram. Next, we headed to the Mass Fusion building to get ourselves the beryllium agitator there to get Liberty Prime mobile again. After jumping onto the roof, I went down an elevator, had the synths there blow that elevator, after which I waited for the perfect moment to kill most of them in one go. After dealing with the last few teleporting in late, I retrieved the agitator, got absolutely cooked by radiation, as has become somewhat of a tradition at this point, and took care of the automated defense systems. After making my way out of the building, I activated Liberty Prime and got into a nuclear detonation race with the big salt. I think it ended up being a tag.
That still only counts as one!
Okay, now he's just showing off. Anyway, after he drilled a hole into the Institute, I was given a bomb to strap to the Institute's reactor and started making my way towards it. If you were looking at this challenge at this point and thought to yourself, boy, this sure looks fun, I might just give it a go myself someday. Don't! For the love of God, save your sanity. At the very least, skip the normal Nuka phase. My lord, the grind was real. I've done some grindy runs in the past year and a half, but this one by far takes the cake. Anyway, I saw some monkeys.
Nuke it.
Once in the main lobby, I cleared most of the place out with a mere 3 shots of Nuka-Cola Quantum, after which I came face to face with Father again. With a hole blown into his concrete pillow and face, I unlocked the way into the reactor room and went inside. With 18 shots of quantum left, it seemed that I had made just about enough of the stuff to make it to the end. Which was good, cause I really didn't want to have to do another round of trading. Not that it was an option at this point anyway. Despite a few nuclear detonations going off near the reactor, it was somehow still running. So I planted the charge, teleported out, and blew the Institute to smithereens, beating the game with only the Thirstzapper. Before you go, I just want to say thank you for watching, and if you're a fan of Fallout 2 or the Enclave at all, be sure to check out this video right here. And until next time, ciao!